Welcome back. We're now going to demonstrate performing the three-point lift. We're actually going to lift this spool that we've previously fabricated on our pipe stands up. We want it to come up nice and level. Then we're going to do an invert, simulating if we had to drop this spool into the building in a relatively tight confines. After that, we're going to bring it down as if we were dropping it into the building, bring it back to the level, and do a transfer. Let's just first have a look at our rigging that we've got connected here. Each piece of our rigging we inspected as we connected it. You can see we've got two chain falls. It's a three-point lift, the third non-adjustable lift at the back here. We've used double wrap choker hitches at all three locations. You can see on these top two we've actually set the chokers around to the back, which is going to be the center of the pipe when we bring it up to our inverted position. We've got our transfer shackle arrangement that we discussed earlier. The other two legs have chain falls on them, which is going to allow us to make the necessary adjustments to bring our pipe spool off of the stands in a controlled manner and also allow us to do the invert. So, we're all hooked up and ready to go. The first thing I do, though, is I need to eyeball my crane and make sure that it's nicely aligned over the center of gravity. So I have to stand back and I have to look in both directions and make sure that it's perfectly aligned. I may have to take it up a little bit first to see if it's got any sort of a lean to it. So I take my crane up a little bit. So as you heard, I'm using a chain fall to simulate the crane. So I can see it's got a bit of a lean to it, so I give my crane operator the signal to swing his boom over a little bit. Stop there. I like what I see. It's nicely centered over the center of gravity. I give him the signal to take it up slowly. As I take it up and my slings start to tighten up, I'm going to check each sling to make sure that it has relatively equal tension on it. I can see this one started to come up tight a little bit before the others, right? So I'm going to bring that one down a little bit. Good. Now I'm going to tighten it up with the crane a bit more. I always finish every signal with a stop, and I'm just tightening it. So I'm checking. Right? We want to bring this off of the stands in a controlled fashion. We don't want to just yank it up and kick the stands out from underneath of it, potentially cause some damage to the spool or worse, damage to ourselves. I can feel this one's still a little bit tight, so I'm going to back that one down a little bit more. Good. Okay, tighten up on my crane a bit more. Stop. We're getting close. Right? This one's still a little bit snug. Good. A little bit more. Stop. Okay, so we're getting pretty close. They all feel like they got pretty well equal tension on them. Check. Also, we discussed previously sling angles. Right? We've got a nice angle here. It's actually over 60 degrees. 60 degrees is our guideline. So we need to make sure that we check this anchor sling here so that it's long enough so that we don't have too sharp of a angle down here, adding too much tension to our slings. Having said that, if you're rigging in the shipyards, a lot of times you don't have that much headroom, and we will have to set up our slings a lot tighter. If that's the case, you just need to obviously account for that in your sling calculations as to how much additional tension is being applied to those slings. So let's take it up a little bit more and see how, you can see we've got a tag line set up here, right? Nobody's standing in a pinch point as it comes off of the pipe stands. Right? We're going to take this one up a little bit. You can see it lifted off the stands on the left here, so I'm just going to tighten this one up a little bit more on my right. There we go. Nice and controlled off of the stands. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring it up, bring the crane up. I'm going to get my stands out of the way. I'm just going to stop, and I'm going to get them to dog it for a second here while I reach underneath and get my stands out of the way. Thank you. So as I bring it up, the advantage of using the chain falls is I can stand here down on the ground with my pull chains, and I can drop this end down. As I bring it, I can do a controlled invert. So up with the crane, and we'll start adjusting our chain falls. Remember, you're keeping that level. Always looking and watching and checking to make sure, trying to make sure you have a straight line of sight. Stop there. Okay, I can let off a little bit more on this one here, the other way. So, I have a nice vertical invert. I still got a bit of tension on this bottom one. There we go. Bring her down. There. So now we got a nice vertical hang. Okay, so now we're imagining we send it off, and we're going to simulate this now arriving inside, and us then grabbing onto our chain falls and bringing it back to the level as it comes into the building. Okay, so crane operator starts bringing it down. As the crane operator drops it, we're going to take up on our lower chain fall. Watch that bottom. You pull it over. You pull it over. A little bit faster. Slow down a bit. You're up a little bit. You're up a bit. Down a bit. Good. Okay, there we go. Nicely brought back to the horizontal. So the next thing that will probably occur is we don't want to keep this crane hung up all day, right? So we're going to need to transfer our load onto our internal rigging equipment. So we'll just take a second and we'll get our internal rigging equipment set up, and then we'll demonstrate transferring the load. Okay, you can see we've got our chain fall, our internal chain fall we've added, and this is going to be the chain fall that we're hooking up our transfer to and releasing our crane hook. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit lower on the crane here first. Now, remember, we put our transfer hook on so that the back the hooks so they don't get hung up. And I'm now just going to take up on my transfer equipment. Just going to stand back and have a look. You can move under it a bit. Now just ease off on the crane a bit, slowly. Take up a little bit more. There we go. Good. Down on the crane. So now the total load is being carried by my internal rigging equipment. I can disconnect my crane, send him on his way, and we're good to work with this on our own and get it bolted up. So there it was, our 3-point lift with an invert and a transfer, all in a very controlled fashion.